It was a bit of a busy week in the world of hockey, Clark.
Yeah.
You might have heard some things shook down.
Couple things.
At the tail end of the weekend. Just right at the end of Sunday Night Football, the Vancouver Canucks wanted to slide in and say, hey, we're going to shake things up. We suck. It's time.
Yeah.
So, with the shake-up, the Canucks clean house and fire general manager Jim Benning, head coach Travis Green, and are now on the search for a new GM while they employ Bruce Boudreau. Bruce. What was the chant that they were doing when they actually won last night in Bruce's first game?
There it is.
Bruce, there it is.
Yeah.
Anyways, great stuff by Canucks faithful. Again, great fan base. They do deserve a winning team. They really do. I don't know what the hell took them so long to fire Jim Benning.
Can I say something about the Canucks fan base?
Please do.
Obviously we don't live in Vancouver, so I haven't experienced this necessarily firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
But from everything I've been told, they kind of seem like they feel like they're on their own, and they feel like they kind of get forgotten about sometimes because they don't have any, now that they have Seattle, but they don't have any geographical rivals necessarily.
Right.
Calgary has Edmonton, and then the American teams are kind of all on their own. So Vancouver
kind of third wheels that rivalry. It's always a good game when it's
it's always great. Yeah, but they don't have like that one team, so they're kind of on their own. And I think they have this complex where because of that, they're extremely hard on themselves.
Right.
And I think the fan base, as patient as they've been in the last 8 years, I guess, or so.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while.
Since the 20, let's just say since their Stanley Cup run when they lost to Boston.
I have an interesting stat if you want it.
Just will
pertaining
take it.
to that 8 years.
Yep.
26th in the entire NHL in points percentage over the course of the last 8 years.
Really?
Thank you, the Jeff Merrick Show, for that one.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Jeff
I know
Merrick,
that they have like the most 5th overall picks in the last 7 or 8 years.
26th overall in terms of points percentage.
Exactly.
The math doesn't add up there, right? When you've had that high of selections.
Yeah, they don't ever get the top 3. They're always in 5th.
Or you draft Ole Ulevi, who cares more about playing video games than hockey, but whatever.
Yep. But yeah, so it's a fan base that has, they've been patient, but at the same time, they can be really, really hard on themselves and hard on the team and very critical at times. And, they have some very passionate radio shows and radio call-in shows that I've heard some horror stories about from the media side of it. But at the same time, they know what they want, and clearly the ownership listened a little bit, but they were also getting frustrated with how things were going. And not too long ago, Francisco Aquilini came out and kind of said, Jim's fine, Travis is fine, we're sticking with it. We have a team here that we think we can do something with. Not that long ago, he came out and said that, and, just a week or two later, off with their heads for both of them. Boudreau comes in. I know that they have a conglomerate of people trying to figure out who their next GM is going to be. And there's some options out there. One I heard was Mark Bergevin. I was like, oh, no.
That's the immediate name that comes to the top of the pile, right? But again, we talk about Mark Bergevin, and he just got out of a pressure cooker in Montreal. Does he even want to go into the fire?
Does Vancouver want him there? Is the other, I'm talking about the market.
Well, exactly, right?
So that was one thing I heard. I think it was Steve Dangle podcast, and they were laughing about how Mark Bergevin, he's turning gray, he's pulling his hair out, and
still
he was
jacked.
He was working
care of
out
himself physically.
He was maybe taking some frustration out in the gym.
Yeah, I would say.
But there was all these rumors that he was going to go down to the LA Kings, and it's like, this nice market. It's no pressure down there. He's probably an assistant GM down there, so really out of the limelight. Yep. Oh, no, wait, I think I'll go to Vancouver.
Exactly.
Okay. Have fun with that. But
instead of being in the snow, I want to be in the rain.
I think there's a sense that there's probably a chance that we might see a new name on this one. And we'll see. I mean, I don't know how the Aquilinis are going to want to approach this, because I know they'll be heavy in this decision and who comes in. But there's a guy in Carolina named Eric Tulsky who I think should be right at the top of the list. He's an up-and-comer. He has some really kind of new modern ideas on how to run a team. He's got a lot of analytics, and I know people cringe at analytics, and there's a give and a take when it comes to analytics. You got to balance it out.
You have to have a GM nowadays where it's a hybrid skill set, right? Yeah. You have to be able to at least look at the analytics, understand what they mean, but also still be able to have the eye test and identify talent.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's an attitude there where they don't want to recycle somebody. They want to bring in somebody new to try something different and see how it goes. Because the other name I heard was Mike Gillis. And if you remember, they were chanting "Fire Mike Gillis" just previously to hiring Jim Benning in the first place. So I don't think it's as a situation where you want to just recycle somebody. I would love to see somebody come in there, kind of similar to how what John Chayka did in Arizona. Now I know John Chayka's time ended poorly, didn't go well at the end, but just somebody in that ilk of a younger, fresh mind who has some different views on how to run a hockey team. I'd love to see it personally in Vancouver. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, you look at it though too, right? I mean, at least in the market itself, they're not going to have the restriction of having to have a bilingual general manager. Not to say it's a restriction in Montreal, but obviously they're going with a hybrid run of having Jeff Gordon, and they want somebody to be the face of the franchise that is bilingual, that can speak and address both English, French. But when it comes to Vancouver, I mean, you've really got a wide open field of candidates for this one. And this is the year of the interim GM, right? We're seeing it in Anaheim for different circumstances. We're seeing it in Vancouver for performance reasons, and we're seeing it in Montreal. Two of, if not, I mean, the upper echelon markets in the entire NHL, at least the ones with the most pressure on them. So when it comes to this, it's amazing to see the time that's taken, right? There's obviously trust. It's not so much a hierarchy of it's the GM and everybody else anymore. There's obviously some very respected people within their organizations that they say, okay, you know what? We're making a change in the top position, but that doesn't mean that all the work's going to fall by the wayside. We trust the people in our hockey ops departments to be able to do the work until we find the right person to lead us into the next generation. So it's just funny to see, I guess, how much time is being taken. Because if you look at 5-10 years ago, it was your GM was out and then you had a new one lined up ready to roll, right?
There was always an assistant ready to fill in.
Exactly. There was always somebody ready to go, right? It was never the slapping. It was always the interim tags went to the head coach, which we'll get to next. But when it comes to the GMs, right, it's never been the interim GM. So it's just funny to see how long teams are taking. They want to make the right decision. So when it comes to Vancouver, it's going to be an interesting one. But I mean, at least they're off to the right foot in the Bruce Boudreau era, as it were, getting a 4-0 win last night. And hey, Brock Besser scored a goal. Vancouver fans,
he needs it so bad. Yeah. And that's one thing that Boudreau, just to give him 100% credit here, he's done that in the past. He finds ways to maximize offensive talent, and I think that's kind of the perfect scenario for the Vancouver Canucks right now, because who's struggling? It's Pettersson, Hughes isn't, Besser, JT Miller's not finding the right teammates. JT Miller is still putting up almost a point per game this season, but it's not clicking fully. Horvat needs to get going still. There's a lot of Podkolzin, and I'm just naming all their forwards now, but there's a point where you need to look at these guys and say, we need these guys to be our ride or die. We don't need to shove them on our third line. And I think there's an aspect to Boudreau where I think he's going to just, run these guys, run your horses. And I think hopefully it'll be good to see them be an exciting offensive team, because that's Vancouver at this point should be a young, fast skating, quick passing offensive team. And when they're not, it's not good for the entire league, honestly.
Yeah, and it came down to a few things. I think when you look at just the style of play, that they're not fast enough. Couldn't keep up with teams that were even average speed in the NHL, getting beat by everybody, not physical enough. And you look at the D-Corps, right? I mean, it's been a bit of a struggle for a couple of years now. Just because you bring in Oliver Ekman-Larsson doesn't mean that that's going to just automatically make you a bona fide contender of a team on the defensive side of the puck. So it's just, there's a few, I guess, very glaring issues just from the hockey side that we'll see if Bruce is able to fix. But I mean, they have enough talent there, right? Like you said, you look at his resume, he's coached some high octane offensive units from Washington to Anaheim when they had Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf. You look at his time in Minnesota even too, right? Where we've always said that Minnesota somehow is just a bunch of guys. Yeah. Bruce Boudreau found a way to get some offense out of that group too. So it's just kind of funny how the turntables, and I mean, we all saw it in his first press conference. It's great to have Bruce back in the league.
Did you watch him skate onto the ice at practice?
No.
He couldn't find an edge. His skates weren't sharp, and he was scrambling like Bambi out there.
First day back at work, guys. Didn't have time to make good sharpeners. Sorry about that.
Seriously. Yeah. You want to move on to the Flyers?
Sure, we could. Why not? Right?
So the Flyers joined the fray, and this is actually there's a rumor out there that Vancouver jumped on Boudreau because they heard that the Flyers were firing Vigneault and Alan Vigneault, and they were worried that they were going to try to scoop Bruce. So Vancouver said, we got to get it done. We got to get Bruce in here. That might have hastened the process, honestly, of the whole firing
for sure.
In the first place. But Alan Vigneault fired in Philly as Mike Yeo steps in as the interim tag. Vigneault wore out his brotherly love in Philly in the midst of a 7-game losing streak. Nice one, Max. Nice one. Good one. Yeah. So Mike Yeo, as probably he's most famous for getting fired in St. Louis when the year they won the Cup. He was the coach there when St. Louis was last in the league. They fired him. They brought in Craig Berube.
Does he still get a ring?
I don't think so.
Fair question.
He should, but he doesn't. Craig Berube comes in, and the rest is history. They won the Cup that year. So Mike Yeo is there. He's clearly the quickest one to just kind of fill in. He has head coach experience. Ton of experience, exactly. Yeah. And we'll see what he does there. I don't know if they're going to make him permanent or not, but Philadelphia, the beginning of the year, they were 6-2-2. And they've just fallen off completely since then. Yeah. That was the first 10 games. They've played, 14 or 15 probably since, 13 or 14 since. And they just haven't been putting it together. They got great goaltending at the start of the year, and they've been getting, okay goaltending, but they've gotten injuries. Your boy Ryan Ellis got hurt. Tons of injuries. The lineup just wasn't clicking like it was at the beginning of the year, and that gets people fired.
Does this not scream bring in John Tortorella?
In Philly?
Yeah. Why not, though?
The three names I saw were Rick Tocchet, John Tortorella, and Jim Montgomery, who got fired in Dallas a couple years ago. Yeah. I would love to see Tocchet or Tortorella go in there and just kind of fire everybody up.
I think that's where Torts could have that immediate impact, right? You look at the composition of the Flyers team, right? It's a veteran team with a couple of young pieces, right? Yep. You look at Carter Hart, who's still by all accounts a very young goaltender in the National Hockey League. He just needs a defensive core in front of him that's able to actually, put together a first pass out of the zone consistently. I mean, when you look at just again the composition of the team, though, right? It's a lot of veterans. And for a guy like Torts, I mean, he's going to have that mutual respect already built in. It's a fresh slate. I want to say, I don't know, maybe Cam Atkinson. I guess that's your biggest vote of confidence right there. Cam
came out and said it?
No, I'm just saying, if he gets a glowing recommendation from Cam Atkinson, why wouldn't you if you're Philadelphia? There's probably not a guy better in the entire NHL that could give you a vote of confidence than a guy that played for you literally for the last 6-7 years. Right?
Yeah, I'd be curious to know how Cam Atkinson feels about John, because
that's your first call if you're Chuck Fletcher in Philadelphia. Right?
Cam was getting benched and stuff in Columbus, and I don't know if he ever really came back around to what he was doing in Columbus. So yeah, if Cam Atkinson says, yeah, he's a great coach, that says a lot. So we'll have to see. I don't know if he's come out and said that or not, but
yeah, I don't know. I like the team specifically. I just thought of that, but just specifically for that one player, that's about as, again, in-depth as you're going to get for how he ran that organization on a day-to-day basis. And the one thing that Cam can't say is that they didn't have success more so than what a lot of people predicted they would based on what they had on paper during Torts' time in Columbus. So I'm looking at it from a perspective of, you look at the veteran group, you look at what Torts has done in the past in terms of an immediate injection of life. I look at him like a Peter Laviolette. He's a guy that, again, immediate impact as soon as he gets there. It doesn't take him 6, 7, 8 weeks to get acclimated. And if you're the Flyers and you still think you have a chance at the playoffs, why wouldn't you take a shot on a guy like that?
So here's where I'm going to put an argument out there.
Put it out there.
Philadelphia, obviously.
It's wrong, but put it out there.
Okay.
All right.
Philadelphia, obviously, very rooted in its traditions, the Broad Street Bullies, et cetera, et cetera. Guess who played in Philadelphia from 1984 to 1992, and then also from 99 to 02?
Rick Tocchet.
Yeah. So I have a feeling.
But I mean, Javi Baez is his brother-in-law was Jose Barrios, and I mean, I didn't see him sign in Toronto.
This is different. This is totally different.
That's right, exactly. It's save percentage, and what was the other thing you tried to correlate for baseball?
Again. Let's
dig all the skeletons out of the closet.
I compared save percentage to referee percentages in terms of their call corrections.
Umpires, that's right. Yes, save percentages to umpires. Yes, that's right. Yeah.